think I did it that time. I think I did it. Finally, I've been practicing that for weeks. Grand Rising, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. My name is Chase Steele Gray. You know that already. And if you don't know that, and it's your first time visiting us today, we appreciate you coming here. Whoever invited you must really care about you because this is a great environment. I promise you'll leave with something that you did not come in with. I am Chase Steele Gray, your host today for Health and Wellness Wednesdays. So we talk about an array of things. We never know what's going to happen next. We're here every week at 9 a.m. I am your host, a singer, an actor, a manifester, a podcast host, a lover of life. That's my short, Dun and Bradstreet. Today, we have someone very, very kind and special. I cannot wait for you to hear her. I'm going to let you know a little bit about her with her little short bio here. I just want to make sure you know who she is. Barbara Ann Michaels, Reverend Barbara Ann Michaels, Jester of the Piece, is a performance artist and ordained interfaith minister creating participatory experiences on humor and wellness. She playfully draws on familiar rituals of society, weddings, voting, telephone calls, parades, holidays, and more, leading people from around the world to be seen, heard, celebrated, and connected as they express themselves in fun or seriousness, or both in the moment. When put together, her interactive activations, our installations, form a whole town for community self-expression. Her mission is to put humor back into the medicine cabinet for generations to come. She collaborates with cultural, corporate, and community groups and institutions around the world. Humor is human. Please welcome Barbara Ann Michaels to the Daily Huddle.
Hi, Chase. It's so much fun to be here with you. Thank you for that warm welcome.
Yes, awesome. When I first saw the title that you chose, and we were talking about some titles, I read it a couple times and I was like, how do you embrace celebration, humor, and joy as human rights? And I just thought, what a great way to say that, because I know, and you know, that both of us at separate times has told someone in our, vicinity that it's your right to be happy. It's your right to be abundant. It's your right, whatever. And you're met with a brick wall when you say that to certain people. They're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. But let me let you open it up. Just give us a little bit of a background on how you arrived in this place and you do all of these. I love the bio. It's so beautiful. Just give us a little bit about how you got there and what's going on.
Thank you so much, Chase. So my name as an artist is Jester of the Piece, and that means humor for wellness. It means playfulness for humanity.
Right.
And I didn't realize that humor and wellness was my through line as an artist until I turned around and looked after 30 years and realized, I've always been working on humor and wellness. I have a whole variety of different backgrounds. I used to be a pediatric hospital clown. I was a festival artist. I was a stilt walker. I was teaching humor and comedy to people of all ages. I was a wedding officiant, which is where the name Jester of the Piece comes from. I did 560 weddings, costume weddings, helicopter weddings for people who need to express their creativity to feel authentic.
I love that.
And so I have my entire career been focused on humor and wellness, but I didn't quite realize it. The depth of this for me, when I say humor is a human right, joy is a human right, celebration is a human right, life is miraculous. Every person needs to address the mystery of life in one way or the other. And whether someone addresses the mystery of life through a spiritual path or atheism, it's all equal. It's more like we're here. And my highest value is people finding their gifts, being appreciated for their gifts, and giving their gifts in their lifetime. Because if we don't give our gifts in our lifetime and we pass, then our gifts got missed. And so if I look at the world, I think, if we're not focused on everybody finding their gifts to give to humanity all day long, if that's not what we're focused on all day long for every person everywhere, well, then something's not right with the way society is constructed. So we have to work on that, because it is our right as humans to give what we're here to give to our highest satisfaction. And that's not necessarily the society that's been constructed. And so we have to reconstruct it. And I choose to work on that through humor, playfulness, and fun, because through all of my projects, if it's funny, it's faster. If I help people reframe their stories with humor, they get access to habits that they might not have taken on because they were stuck in the story of the past. Humor is so powerful. It's part of the human condition. I didn't invent humor for wellness. It's
Right.
in the human condition that we reframe and chart our lives with humor as our companion.
Correct. Very well said. Very well said. And I think about artists like myself, when we do what we do, when we bring, humor and warmth and love and emotion to people and they walk away, there's people who will go to see, Deepak Chopra or Bruce Springsteen and spend $300 to $500, but they won't pay their light bill. There's something in that means something, right?
It
Like,
does mean something.
where are we going to go that's going to soothe us, right? And my question to you is, what do you say to the person who's listening and watching this right now and goes, that's crazy. I'm so busy. I got 3 kids, a job, a husband. My back hurts me. I have therapy 4 times a week. My grandmother's sick. What do you say to that person?
Yeah. Uh, humor is inherent to all people.
Right,
Sometimes people will tell me, oh, I'm not funny, I'm not a comedian.
right,
Or as if the only access to humor is being a professional comedian from the stage.
right, right,
Or sometimes people will say, there's no laughter in the world because everything's too serious.
right.
When in actuality, so here's this is how it goes. Something difficult happens,
Mhm.
and then that thing owns us emotionally until we get to our first laugh. And the first laugh
Right,
could be so small. It could be like, it could be even smaller than that, like however tiny it is. And as soon as we have the first laugh about the situation, keeping in mind that the original thing isn't funny, usually,
right,
but
right,
something along the journey, the first laugh is when we put space around the pain. That's when the heart has hope. Even if the healing journey is still going to be a long one, that's the moment where we actually believe that healing is underway. Now, there are many stories in our lives that will never reach humor because they're too soon. So from the comedy industry in the United States, there's this concept of too soon, which means it's too soon to find laughter about that thing. However,
right.
it is possible to look back into our stories and find the stories that are ready for humor. So I
Okay.
have had people tell me genuinely funny tales. So I have a project called Circus of the Heart. And it's called Circus of the Heart because people go to the actual circus to see people do impossible things. Like, if Flying Frida can hang off her pinky toe on the high wire, then maybe I can ride this bike. Like, we see
Right.
people do something impossible. I feel like I have a little bit more availability. So the Circus of the Heart project is interviewing people about times from their lives. And this is people from all over the world, from many different backgrounds, from times in their lives that were hard then that are funny now. And that's what feels impossible emotionally. So if she can laugh about her house fire, then maybe I can call my brother, or whatever it is that feels
Right,
like outside the box. And
right,
I've had people tell me genuinely funny tales. Now, keep in mind, the original thing isn't funny, but genuinely funny tales about the journey from death of parents, finding out parents survived a war and they didn't know, brain cancer surgery, almost drowning as a child, growing up neurodivergent, all different kinds of things, because humor gives space. When I was a pediatric hospital clown, we'd go in the room and play with some of the things that were the most difficult in the room so that the family could have an exhale. So we could put some laughter in the most difficult spot. It's not
right.
the same as making fun of the situation. It's not laughing at the situation. It's laughing with and within the situation. And that's where the freedom lies. And we also always have a hand on a heart for the stories from our lives that will not reach humor. But for those that can, there's so much freedom. I say, find the funny, find the freedom, because as soon as the story is truly funny, we can help other people with the story, and then we become altruistic, and then other people can benefit from our own resilience.
Yeah, it's I kept what kept resonating in my head, and I wrote down putting space around the pain and Circus of the Heart. I just think those are very colorful words.
Yeah.
I was reminded of when the Boston Marathon happened, and at the end of the marathon, it was explosions and people got hurt and so on and so forth. And I always think about Chris Rock. He always goes right deep into the heart of something. It touches it a little too much. People go, "Oh, you shouldn't have said that." But he's brilliant at that because when he told the joke about the Boston Marathon, he said, think about it. You're running in the marathon. You're right at the end. Your nipples are bleeding. Your legs are about to give out. You can't do it anymore. And then someone says, run. And I thought about it for a second, I went, that's hilarious. And then someone said, that's not nice. He made fun of people. I said, no, but that is really funny. That's the last word you want to hear when you ran 12 miles or whatever it was. Someone says, run, you've been running. And he hit it right on the head. And I thought, wow, he found something to laugh about in a kind of a tragic situation that some people got hurt or died. I don't remember if they died or not, but, and I was like, wow. And I think that's necessary. And like you said, in comedy, when people say, oh, too soon for that one? Oh, okay, no problem. Sorry, it's too soon. And in actuality, they're dying to laugh. They want to do something to get away from that thing that's just plaguing them when walking away. And I like when you said, it's not funny at first, but then it becomes funny. And I also think it's very magical to meet someone who shows you the funny side of something when you're lost. They just say something and you go, oh my God, that's so funny. And it comes out and you release. And I think it's really powerful what you're doing to create this area, this oasis, if you will, of where someone can kind of like just swim in it. And you and I both know that we can create that world on our own. But it's so nice when someone says, here, come over here with me for a second. And you can show them that and they go, oh, this is awesome, you know? And even something as small as a camera. Yesterday, I took my camera with me and I was taking pictures in the city, whatever, because I had it with that freaking heavy, old, expensive camera that no one would take around because it's so heavy. Just taking these black and white pictures that I can't see until I develop, being in this magical world of like, that's going to be cool, but I can't see it right now. We have it. We have it right in our hands, or just with the person that we know close by. What do you say as it relates to, like right now in this particular moment when people are dealing with, you know, lots of hate in the world and war and we're having political issues and whatever, what do you feel in this particular moment is funny to you? What makes you laugh?
Yeah, that's a great question. So some of the funny, so there's lots of ways to respond to that. One of them is the 30,000-foot spiritual view where people think that we're 98.75% different and 1.25% the same.
Yeah.
But when you go to the genetic level, we're 98.75% the same and 1.25% different.
Of course we are.
And that people are on Earth thinking that our priorities are so different.
Right.
And in reality, there are some things that are different. And most of the things that human beings want are the same. People want to be loved. People want to be a contribution. People want to belong. People want to be seen. People want to know they made a difference. People want to be safe. People want, in general, they want the same things. And so my family is a great example of that. Half my family is super conservative and the other half of my family is super liberal. In my family, that doesn't prevent people from loving each other. I know that there are families out there where that does divides relationships. In my family, it's like, I don't know why you believe that. You know what? Let's make some popcorn on the stove because I love you. I mean, it's to part of what is, and this is like 30,000-foot view funny to me,
right?
Is that believing that we're that different when we're not. And so my projects are about people expressing themselves, and I interview people from all walks of life who believe very different things about the way the world should be constructed.
Right.
However, at the core, it's the same thing over and over again. I'm the president. So one of my projects is called I Vote for You. And that's good to talk about right now because we're in an election year. And so to introduce that, I'll say something like, you might have noticed that there's an election going on. It's kind of an underground thing. Not a lot of people know about it, but there's this election happening. And that will sometimes elicit a chuckle because it's so prevalent everywhere. And one of the ways to create humor in our lives is to just set up an expectation and break it, or or say the opposite of what's happening, because
Right.
everyone, I mean, laughter ultimately is physiological. So in this I Vote For You project, it's a non-political engagement with the civic process. And so I'll vote for people to be president of whatever they want. And it meets people emotionally with whatever they need right now. So if someone needs a serious moment, they might be like, I'm the president of free food for kids. I'm the president of peace. I'm the president of clean water. And then they'll give a speech. And the funny thing is, all my projects are funny on the surface. And the reason for that is that if it's funny, it's faster. If it's funny, people aren't thinking like, okay, I'll vote for myself to be president of whatever I want. If I did a serious project about the same thing, people would hold back and think and wonder if it's okay. But because it's funny, people just share. And so if someone wants a funny moment, they'll be like, I'm the president of Greengrass and I'm the president of cereal, or whatever it is. And none of that is frivolous. None of it. What it is in this moment, this person is declaring something about themselves and they're being seen and heard and celebrated. And seen and heard is not enough. If I look around the world, I see people being seen and heard and rejected. And I have a theory, and this is on the level of theory, that some of the young people who turn to violence as a solution do so because they feel seen and heard and then rejected.
Yeah.
And that's laughing at each other. So all of my projects are laughing together, laughing with each other versus at. Not that laughing at it never serves, because sometimes there's no 100% in these things, but in general, if we trend laughing with, then people will be seen, heard, and celebrated. That creates community, it creates inclusion, it creates love, it creates strength, it creates wellness. And so when people give these acceptance speeches in this arts project, there's a spine straighten that happens. All my projects are about very, very familiar things on purpose. I mean, my secret sauce as an artist is it's funny on the surface, the structure is super simple, and it's about something familiar. What I'm really doing is how can I make it as easy as possible for you to feel seen, heard, and celebrated right now? And so people they're like, I won? I'm the president of education? Well, this is my speech. And then people will have a fun time giving a speech, kind of tagging speeches that we've seen, but actually saying, most of the time people end up saying something that really matters to them, and they walk away with a straightened spine, with a positive face, and a light and greater lightness in their being. And I deeply, deeply believe in the importance of moments. And so that's either going to be a pivot point for someone, because in the transformational journey, you never know when the pivot point is going to happen. And people, especially my Marry Yourself program, people use as a pivot point. Or it could just be, I feel better right now. I'm looking up, not down. I got to engage with the person I wouldn't have seen if I'd been on my phone because I wasn't feeling good. So
Yeah.
I really believe in moments as I mean, life is now. Life is now.
I like that because it seems like you're coaching people on how to be authentic and practice self-actualization. Because how can you go and do one of those projects and not have that drip into your life? Like, it's just so,
Yes.
when you change the verbiage, when people say, oh, such and such and such and such, or they'll be talking about a car. Like, for example, I'm obsessed with the Rivian vehicle. I don't know where it came from. Out of nowhere, I just saw it one day when I was renting a car. It said Rivian, and I was like, what is that? And I looked at it, and most of the people, when I talked to them, they would say, well, how much is that? That looks expensive. And if you speak to somebody else that helps you turn that around, they would say, no, you don't say how expensive it is. You say, what do I need to do to have that?
Yep.
Let's go drive it. Let me feel it. Let me touch it. Let me see who works at the dealership. Let me do some research. And it's so interesting that we don't create from that platform. You can go in any educational atmosphere. They don't lead with that. And it's so frustrating to me. Well, maybe now they do with people like you and maybe the 10 to 15% of the world that goes, I'm going to do it this way. And people are trying to mosey their way into that. But in general, people don't speak about it that way. And when you say that you have something like, these topics that you said, it's like, why aren't we playing with reality, which is a word that always disturbs me because people say, no, I'm not being negative. I'm just being real. So it's real to tell yourself that you can't accomplish that. It's real to say you'll never be able to afford that. Is that real? And then they go, no, I didn't say that. And then we get into this back and forth all the time, right? I believe, and I love the way you started the conversation, that because we have, you and I agree that we both have an inherent right to be happy, to be abundant, to be grateful, to have happiness, to give happiness, all that stuff. I just want to keep pushing that out to people, because once they feel it, they go, what was I doing before? Like, it's like, I could have got here 5 years ago, but I didn't. I wasted all that time. All right, here we go. We're doing it right now. Yeah. And I didn't ask you this before. Do you have a book or something that you put together, or is that in the works?
I have a few books in the works. One of the books I have in the works is What I Learned About Love as a Wedding Officiant after doing 560 weddings.
Oh, that's
and I was doing weddings, again, believing in the sanctity of creativity. I was doing weddings for people who need to do the costume wedding, the helicopter wedding, the 6 a.m. in the snow wedding. Yeah. And that's how I became an interfaith minister, because I was so concerned that people wouldn't take my clients seriously because they needed to do a costume wedding to feel real.
Yeah.
That I full on went to interfaith seminary because I was an internet minister to start off. And that's where the name Jester of the Peace came from too, because I was serving creative people. I mean, it's very, when you said authenticity, that's really what it is. Right. All of the projects that I have are participatory and people express themselves. And one of my favorite things about them is that it's co-arising joy. Because if the other person feels better, I'm facilitating this experience of someone marrying a part of themselves. They might marry their creativity. They might marry their relationship with sleep, whatever it is. People have an unappreciated lifelong relationship with coffee. I've had people marry all different kinds of things symbolically. And the other person feels better, and I do too, because you can't, it's not one, it's additive. You know how you can get stress off someone else's stress? You can also pick joy off of someone's joy. You can, right. When you said before that we, like, what's the truth that we're speaking into, and about the car, when you were saying, oh, people will say that it's too expensive. The same thing is true of joy and happiness. Oh, it's too expensive to be joyful. It's too expensive. It's too expensive to be happy. Well, I really like the distinguish between joy and happiness. I've heard it said in a variety of places. I know someone said it first, but that happiness comes and goes, but that joy is internal, and it's also our responsibility. It's not for me to go out and say, okay, world, happiness is a human right, joy is a human right, laughter is a human right, humor is a human right. You make me happy. It's your responsibility to make me happy. It's my responsibility to construct my life in a joyful way, which is, what is my relationship with peacefulness in my life? What is my relationship with navigating relationships in a win-win way, and deciding who's in my inner circle that contributes to my well-being? How do I put myself around people that bring me forward? How do I believe that it is that I have gifts to give humanity, and that they are necessary because I was born with them and here I am with them. Right. All of that is my responsibility. And the paradox is, it's my responsibility, but I don't do it alone, because we can know ourselves, but we can't see ourselves. And so sometimes my gifts, like being an educator, I went out to be an educator because a friend of mine says, hey, come teach my class with these young people. I had a 20-year background as an educator. And on the first day, it was a dance class. I never taught dance class. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to trust you. Went to class, had no idea what to do, was a total mess. I said, okay, kids, I don't know. What do you want to learn? I'm at a loss here. I went into, it was a total bust. I went into my friend. I said, I'm sorry, I was right. I can't do this. And she said, no, that was just your first day. Go back. I had a 20-year career as an educator. And it's very funny to me that it was a total bust on the first day. And here's the reframe. This is an It's Funny Now story. This is a Circus of the Heart story for me. Because if I had said to myself, oh, I failed on the first day as a teacher, I'm not going to teach. That would have been 20 years on the side, arts education, teaching in schools where the arts had been cut during the day, thousands of young people, and also college kids, and also adults, because I also now keynote at conferences. If I had said I can't be an educator, I failed on the first day, that would have been bad thing happens, too soon, too soon, too soon, not allowing my first laugh. I would have cut out something that's been a massive way for me to contribute in the world. And there are people who are like, oh my God, I failed the first time. I'm never doing this again.
Oh, I've met them many times.
But the
Many.
humor to be like, okay, let me just go back. And it may be too soon. And it's okay if our stories are too soon. It's okay. But
Right.
to be able to, for me to be able to be like, oh my gosh, I was a mess. It did not work. That is hilarious. And part of the reason it's hilarious to me now is that I'm such a great educator. And I had got so much satisfaction out of doing that in the ways that I did all those years. And I brought so much creativity to so many people, and so much permission to be unusual. Because one of the things that I was doing in my class was teaching kids that you don't fit into the world, you create it. And so I would do things like, okay, kids, you tell me what you want to be. Somebody be like, I want to be Leonardo da Vinci, and I want to be a cat, and I want to run a store. Like, okay, what kind of time travel do we need to put in place so that you get to be who you declare yourself to be? Because the underlying message of that is we create the world, we don't fit into it. And I think that I know that there are groups of people who are taught to fit into the world, and it's also our right to create the world, and it's our right to be, it's our right to have joy. It's our right to have self-declared joy. And so using humor to humor is just further faster. I'm a very serious artist. I use humor as a strategy.
Right, right. Absolutely. I knew this would happen with you and I. We need like an hour and a half. If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand now for Barbara. I wrote so many things down that you said. It's like a coloring book playground over here. I love it. It's awesome. Does anyone have any questions at all?
Hey, Chase, this is Sorrel. I do have a question.
There he goes.
Barbara, thank you so much for being the jester of the peace to the world. My question is this. When you say that joy is my right, uh, peace is my right, it kept sounding to me as if those are things that are rights that can be taken away or given in a way. And I wondered if you would juxtapose right versus choice. Like, it's my choice to be happy, or it's my choice to be funny, or is it my right? What are your thoughts on that?
This is such a fabulous question. And I will tell you that I say humor is a human right as a conversation starter. And so I'm really delighted that you picked up on that and asked me this question, because I say it because it is our choice. So at times in my life, I have put my happiness on someone else, or I've put my joy on someone else, or waited for someone else to give me my joy. And in any time I've given away my choice and made someone else responsible for it, in a way, I've given up my right to that thing because I've put someone else in charge of it. In the spot that you're on between rights and choice, if I believe that someone else can take away my fundamental peace, or if I believe that someone else can take away my well-being, then it does exist as a right in my life, because I'm operating as if someone else can own it. And then it's the choice to reclaim it. And that doesn't mean happiness all the time. I'm not saying life doesn't have ups and downs, because some of the greatest, most wonderful teachings and lessons of life come in the downs. And it's not, oh, we should be in an ecstatic state all the time. It's more like, I have a right to wellness. And on top of that, I can stack my knowing that I can choose, and I can put myself around people who support my good choices. And then we have a community of people who are all journeying with wellness. And it is our right to have community versus being alone. It's our right to, it's our right to feel right in ourselves. That's what it really comes down to.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
Very, very powerful. Wow. I know
Thank
that
you.
I've heard what you said in bits and pieces from different entities, but when you said it that way, brilliant. So good. When something makes you tingle, I was like, oh, yeah. 300 soldiers running through my chest. That was really a good moment. So I'm going to have you back. There's a few people that I asked to come back, and I would love to have you back because we literally just tipped the iceberg of what I wanted to do with you. Ooh, wow, it's so good. And I really think people need to hear this stuff as like a daily bread kind of thing. But you can't force this on anyone. They have to arrive on their own and want it and feel that they need it for themselves. Like, oh my gosh, it's like one of those things. Like, I want it, you meet people, you're like, I want to give you this. And you try to give it something like, I don't need that. That's stupid. You're like, okay, you want to be there? All right. And you got to let them be there. It's hard, so hard sometimes. But what would you like to say on our outro before
I would
do
like to
my
say that exactly what you just said is why the Circus of the Heart Project exists. Because the Circus of the Heart Project is people laughing with things that were challenging. It's not for the person who's struggling in their deepest pain. It's for the person who's reaching for hope. And if someone's reaching for hope, then the Circus of the Heart Project hears someone else laughing with a related situation. Just the possibility of that, just knowing that the Circus of the Heart Project exists can be like, I can have laughter with more of the ups and downs of my life. Right. I can feel, I can have more personal freedom. I can restore myself some energy that exists. Okay, let's reach for that. And so it's the reaching for that. The reaching for is beautiful, because if we keep reaching for the thing, eventually we will have it in our hand, and then in our heart, and then in our spirit. And so what I want to say is thank you. I'd love to come back. It's a joy to be in this conversation.
Yeah, that's great.
And here we go forward with humor in our medicine cabinet.
You're in my tribe, Barbara. You're a tribe. Wow. I so much I want to say. I'm gonna say it to you at another time. But thank you so much for joining us. I'm definitely gonna call you back, and we're gonna have you back. There's so many topics for us to explore. Thank you for your energy and your colorfulness and your just simplistic way of getting these gems out. I wrote so many in my book here. I'm just like,
thank you, Chase.
which is great. But anyway, on our outro, as we always do, we go over our tenets. We want you to concentrate on these. If you're listening, wherever you are, first of all, live out loud, live within your purpose, live in the way that you want to live. It's so important. Laugh out loud, because life is not that serious. Trust me, it's not. Move the body. Make sure you're fluid. Every day you're giving your body some sort of exercise, some sort of push forward, because we don't want to atrophy. We don't want to stay in the same place. We're not trees. We're human beings, right? Also, try your best to eat plant-based as much as possible so that the body is lighter. The body has more agility and movement as well. What we put in our body matters. You're going to eat how you're going to eat. I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm just suggesting the plant-based for a few days a week to see how your body feels. Also, the rest is so important. 5-6 hours minimum. And if you want to be a real rock star, in the 6 to 8 or 9 will change your life, especially if you wake up in those magical hours in the morning of 5 to 8. That's a whole nother topic, right? Please don't take life so seriously. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. It's been a pleasure to have you, Barbara. Thank you so much. We want to have you back. Everyone else, create a fantastic day on purpose, the day that you would like to have. Make it happen. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, family. Thank you all.
Thank you. Excellent job. One love, guys. Have an amazing day.